My name is Nicklas Keijser. I work at a company called Opsec, based in Stockholm, Sweden, where I do malware analysis. And this sort of, being a malware analyst, I take part in a bunch of incident response cases. And this is actually going to be a case study from one of the incident response we did, where the threat actor did a major Opsec failure. And sort of this, I would try to show how malware analysis led to threat intelligence, and how we, by threat intelligence, discovered their backup door into the system, and so we can throw them out. So if you stick with me till the end, I will sort of reveal that how we found their backup stuff and how we did. So yeah, let's kick it off. If I can get this rolling, and yeah, this is the introduction slide. I'm a malware analyst. This is the only slide I will show you with assembly, I promise, even though I like this stuff, but I will keep it light. But I was engaged in this attack with this rat that I was trying to unpack. It was packed with Delphi. I was actually struggling a little bit, to be honest. While unpacking it, I found this fantastic string. It says HTTPS, and then it was an IP address /list.txt, and I was like, this sounds very interesting. Now, is it too obvious? Like, is it a trap? I don't know. It's how do I deal with this? It's like, what could it be? I'm not I try to keep my Opsec, so and also not try to infect myself as well. Dealing with the threat actors. I go to the command line and just download this and see. Okay, what was it? And behold, it was like, ooh, it is a big bunch of stuff that looks interesting. Let's take a deeper look at this. And it was an open directory with the threat actors tooling, and I was like, this is amazing. This is amazing. Let's download everything. And this was roughly 5 gigabytes of different stuff, like ordered in a sort of a fairly structural way. And what I did is I started to looking through these tools and see, okay, can we get any sort of insights to the attack that was going on? And yeah, a gold mine. Like, they had left their open directory within the rat, so I could download it. So I would say that's a major epic Opsec fail. And you will see in the end why that's Opsec fail for us defenders, blue teamers, was such a good thingy, and also for this how we kind of cracked this whole case within the IR. And I have blipped some of the stuff. Threat actors might not be so well spoken, so they had this folder called AVF something, and within that they had this kind of a bat file and a reg file and a VVE file. So yeah, just start digging into this. And the first bat file, it had this content to it, and it was actually deleting shadow copies. And if you have looked at ransomware, they always shoot this stuff away. This threat actor didn't, when we actually came into this incident, they hadn't ransomware. They were like on the verge of doing it, but we kind of stopped them in doing this. And we didn't find any ransom, but they had this kind of CryptoLocker, like this kind of BitLocker knockoffs that they had in there as well. So they had all these kind of commands in scripts instead, which gave us an interesting insight to this as well. So this was like, delete shadowing, close the Explorer and put it up again, and then deleting. Just try to be semi-stealthy. Some of the more scripts they had is to disable Defender, and they had like a bunch of them. So like when you look at ransomware, you always see this kind of commands shooting out, and this, we got them all gathered now, which kind of was interesting. Yeah, I think you will have the slides afterwards if you want to have a look. And this will also say, like, from a monitoring position, like if you see any of these commands firing off and it's sort of not expected, you know that you should probably go straight into incident response. We also had this VBE script, and sort of when you look at it, just straight to it, it has sort of, it looks like it's like encoded. But if you don't know, this great Belgian researcher called Didier Stevens, he like if something is encoded or encrypted in some kind of way, Google Didier Stevens and tool, because he has like 100 different tools. And of course, he had a VB decoder as well. And this is another way to try to, with sort of by starting vscript and then starting PowerShell and then to disable AV as well. So there was another variation of disabling the AV. They also had this kind of bat thingy, another folder. So they had this kind of stopping different services. This we usually see when we step into ransomware cases, that they like to stop some services before they encrypt, so they don't destroy them. So like in SQL Server, if you just encrypt it straight away, it sort of is like putting in the rear gear at the highway. So they want to stop it before, but sort of here, like they left the scripts behind. So for us to see all this, like you say, if like from a defender's point of view, if you ever see this stuff running in your environment, there's also like that's what I want to say, go straight to IR, but definitely look into them. So you can have all these slides and like all this. If you see these commands firing off, I mean that's something to investigate. Oops, let's see. I was a bit too quick. Sorry. And also, threat actors, they love to delete shadow copies. So they had a bunch of different scripts how they sort of utilize this. And I like the middle one because like they really want to delete shadow copies. Yeah, this is also used like when you see ransomware, this kind of commands is built in, but now they were not using ransomware, they were more like encryption of file system. They had all these scripts as well. So as well, if you see this stuff running, that's probably something bad is going on. So moving on to more of the tools they had this kind of thing called Clear ED. The first one, there was actually a script as well. And of course, there was more shadow copy deleting, but it was also this tooling to delete event logs. So, I mean, all of this stuff I think is good to keep track on if in your SOC, if this stuff start monitoring, it's bad thing happening. But if we start looking at the tools, I found this tool called ClearLock. Okay, what's ClearLock? For me, I had never heard of this. And ClearLock is actually, it is a screen locker, and it has a config file, and you can give it a password. So if I open this kind of config file and then it gives me a password. So then I need to put in, what it does now is it locks the screen, but it's still active in the background. And actually the Dharma ransomware gang, they have used this one. So by locking out the user, they can still do their activity in the background. But as a user, you need the password. So this, because it's if you go back to slides here, you see here, it has this kind of init file, and you can actually edit this init file, which I did. And I just put on the display message, Nicklas was here. So it is like, there's something interacting with this lock screen. And if you look up at the top, it says password, and then there's looks like something hexy. And okay, what's this? Let's have a look. This tool was actually written in Auto IT. And if someone wants to go into reversing, there's a really neat tool called myauto2exe, which it takes Auto IT binary and converts it into what looks like proper code, or more or less readable code. And within that code, we found this. I found this string called crypt key with the password I am Mr.ed exclamation mark. And if you look on the documentation about Auto IT, this is the crypt key is actually an RC4 encryption. So if you ever end up with a ransomware gang that has locked this one, if you get hold of this config file, you can see the password, and I am Mr. Ed. That's the password. So then you can sort of decrypt this because this has been used by ransomware actors. If we move on, also within this ClearLock, they had this kind of Easter egg within it. It says like this, function egg, and it has this binary string called just a lot of hex stuff, and then sort of converts to another hex thingy. And what is this? And then I put this into CyberChef. I got asked from a few younger colleagues, like, what should you do if you want to become a reverser or malware analyst? And I would say like CyberChef and regex. That's like super good start. They were a bit surprised because this was something else. But if I start digging for this Easter egg and say, okay, let's convert this hex stuff, what does it come? So actually, if you put in Michelangelo into this ClearLock instead of a password, it will give you back comeback cold cuts. And if you would put in Raphael, it would give you back, come back here, I'm not finished with you, damn. And if you put in Splinter, it would give you Kawabanga. And some might recognize, okay, what Easter egg do this lock screen thingy works? It is actually stuff from Turtles. So the creator really likes Turtles. Some of the other tools, this one was called ClearLog by Xecker, and it was actually called elsas.exe. I have never seen an elsas looking like this, especially not with Russia and saying ClearLog. And doing some Googling, I actually found the creator of this called Garant Service. He was actually selling this on one of those darknet forums. And it is a sort of a tool, graphical tool to clear event logs as well. And sort of by running it, it was actually pumping up a VBS script, and that VBS script goes into VMI commands clearing the logs. So it was like a GUI click clear log tooling for bad actors to actually for selling on the market as well. One of the things I ran into that actually a bunch of these tooling, they were protected by a zip. There were zip files that was protected with a password that I didn't know, and I couldn't crack it either. So that's like, if I have a zip file that is protected by a password, is there another way I could sort of figure out what kind of stuff is in it? And you actually you can. The thing is, if you look into 7-zip, it has this hash thing called CRC32, and that is actually used for more for the file integrity. Let's say, like, so make sure that when you unpack it, it's the same file as you packed it. But it is kind of a MD5 light. I mean, it wouldn't be like academically correct to say it is the same file because that's the same CRC32. But if I start looking at the name, because the file name is sort of, I can see the file name, and I can see the CRC32 hash, and I can see the size as well. If all these three line up, I would say it is the same file. I mean, it's with the 99 point something. I mean, if it doesn't have this, if the unique tooling, it doesn't help. But sort of, if it is something that's sort of known, I can still figure it out. So in this case, it was this HTTP LLF or something, and it had this sort of. I just Googled it, and it was this tooling called HTTP LLF low level format tool, which is kind of a competitor to CC Cleaner, but it's sort of erases data like more on a lower level on the disk level. You know, the threat actor didn't utilize this one in this incident, but probably something they will do, like wiping stuff after they had stolen data. But I don't know what was within their tooling. Though, I mean, since I thought it was, you know, there was a little bit. I like this trick yeah, this is tool, and sort of you can actually script this one. So if I make a little for loop and I go over all the zip files, then with some regex and some you know, pulling out the correct fields, I could actually take out the path, the size, and the CRC2. And then, you know, doing so, I could actually search for all this tooling and then find out all the tools, even though I couldn't sort of open the zip file. So I thought, you know, that's you know, a way to work around this, and also like a little trick I want to share with you. So if we move into the incident itself, as I was telling, like I was working with this. We had this sort of rat that I was working with, and I knew that the rat was coming from this thingy called installer.exe, and it was sort of placed in this folder called agents. So what is an agent? Is it like this? I apologize. I am a dad, so I needed to put in at least one dad joke. You know, I apologize. Hope you can bear with me. Anyway, the thing is, the agent, the installer, the file that actually I was looking at was this one called svcss.exe, and that was actually like came from this installer file, and this installer was placed in this folder. So I had a look at it, and it is actually this kind of rat backdoor that you're given an IP, and it installs itself as a service and as a scheduled task. And by getting hold of the installer, and I knew which IP was communicating with, I could just run it and then see, okay, what stuff did it change on my system? And then, okay, we could actually clean out the infection because they had just used the default, which made my job as a reverser much easier. So it's like, you know, thank you, Opsec fail. You just made my life much more simpler. Though there was another one agent which was called AI.exe, and I looked that one up on VirusTotal, and it had 4 alerts saying it was malware, but they were all 4 minor ones, which is kind of okay. Why? If I was looking at this, I would say it's probably not malware, but what is it? So why? Because the rat I get started with, that was the one called installer, and this file was placed next to it in the same folder. So like, there needs to be something. That's why I had a look into this, even though it was not part of the incident. Having a look at this, I'd install it, and it became like this. It had this thing called Agent 32. I love it when they sort of name stuff like this, because it makes our life as incident responder a bit easier. Like the elsas.zip that Lina was talking about as well. Like this stuff, you know, helps a bit. And start looking at this. It is actually a legitimate tool called IntelliAdmin. And it is kind of this remote administration tools that I had never heard about this before this incident, but there is a remote assistant solution, as I said there. Though it is one of those tools that sort of has been laying around on the internet, because actually the creator of this tool, he passed away 6 years ago. So this kind of tool has just surviving on the internet, and it's not maintained anymore. But it is used by threat actors, sort of, or abused, I would say. I mean, the intention for the developer was not this. So, and it has actually been like look into this. Actually, Turla has used this one as well as a backup thingy. And what you could do, yeah, I install it and I look at it, and it looked like this. And even though in the incident we hadn't found the use, this was not where we started. I took out all the IOCs from this tool, saying, okay, this hasn't been used, but I think we should look for it because, you know, it was placed in the same folder as the other one. And actually, this was installed on one server by the threat actor that they never logged into. So this was actually their backup door in. So we could, you know, throw them out as well completely from the environment, because yeah, this is, I guess, how they were, you know, going to come back in without the IR team noticing. And this kind of made me a little bit interested in this kind of abuse, because I've seen it before with other tools that I know about, TeamViewer and Screen Connect and Splashtop. Those ones I've seen. So this is my kind of 15 seconds of Twitter fame. I saw that someone had talked about Swift before, and so I made this kind of blog post, not blog post, Twitter post about remote admin tools that are abused by threat actors. And you know, start just looking into this, I actually discovered there's much more, and inteliadmin is one of them. So I mean, this is a list for you to, you know, keep track on. And actually, this company called Synactive, they did a like a proper, mine was just a, you know, just a bunch of tools on a Twitter thread. They looked into this. They got inspired actually by my Twitter thread and started looking into this. And they did this kind of forensic analysis of different remote administration tools that are abused by threat actors. And there's loads of good IOCs in there. So I highly recommend this one to, you know, if you're a part of a SOC, stuff to look for. Sort of, if let's say you have an environment and you use one of these tools, you use TeamViewer, but all of a sudden, you know, inteliadmin pops up. That's something you should look into. So this is I would say a good list for the whitelisting if someone is misused to keep in track of. So if we go back to the, like, let's say, because this is a threat intel summit, I was like wondering, like, okay, is there a way to figure out, you know, I know they use this tooling. Can I figure out what are their sort of, what's their command and control domains? And so this is how it looks if you go to the IP where this inteliadmin thing is located. And I guess many of you use Shodan, and though there's this super neat feature, it's not that sort of, it's not hidden, but I know many people doesn't know about it. It's called raw data. So you can click here on Shodan, and, you know, it gives you like access to a nice JSON blob. And this is actually one of the things I usually do when I'm involved in cases. I go to, you know, if I know a C2 that's used, I go to the Shodan and see, okay, what stuff could I look at this IP? Is anything unique? And in this case, if you look on this data field, we see this set cookie IE session ID. And IE session, that actually stands for inteliadmin. And all of a sudden, we have something that we can search on Shodan. So let's search for that, set cookie IE session ID. And all of a sudden, we have all the inteliadmin servers that sort of Shodan has enumerated. I mean, it is a legitimate tool, but it has been, this sort of is not being used for many years. There are some false positives in here, but I would say that if you see yourself connecting to one of these IPs and you don't know what it is, definitely something to look into. But I just want to more show the sort of this way of using the sort of this raw data section in Shodan, how to leverage to look for other sort of C2s. And for the other one, the one I started with, that one looked like this. It's a beautiful web programming, isn't it? Then also Shodan has this other nice, super nice feature. It's called HTML hash, which sort of it's kind of a hash, sort of how this web page look like, and then you can search for other web pages that has the exact same look like this. And I put it in showrun as well, and we had 8, and I would dare to say like that's 100% true positives here. And also like one of the things, this is sort of the methodology here, is that if you think about the threat actors, they need to be agile, they need speed, they need sort of to be to put up their infrastructure quickly. They probably have some scripts or some stuff like that, which make them, you can see stuff. If you can find something unique about how they set up stuff, you can probably track their infrastructure with this kind of methodology, thinking like, hey, what's unique for their stuff? Try to figure it out using this kind of techniques. Though, like I tried to think like, who could this be? I tried to attribute it. One of the things like is, because we never had ransomware, and we couldn't attribute it to this one. Though we thought this is probably not like the top tier of the ransomware actors. It's some it's like place 78 or something. I don't know, the top 200. I'm just guessing. But sort of looking at this kind of tooling, we could see like the one of them has Dharma as used. Then when I show you the ClearLock, we had the FISA ransomware. We had Lockis ransomware had used these kind of some of the scripts. We had Mimikatz, which is kind of everyone, all the ransomware. And then for the Intel admin stuff that so that was APT stuff, that was Turla. So yes, showing like, okay, even the minor league stuff, they start picking up all this tooling as well, which makes our job a little bit harder. But still, we can track them, and they fail with Opsec, and so it's another win for the blue team. So thank you very much.